Abuse and neglect in South Africa are skyrocketing. In 2024-2025 financial year, the Department of Social Development reported more than 26,000 cases. Social Development Minister Sisisi Tolashe raises concerns about pregnancies among girls aged 10 to 14, describing them as evidence of deep-rooted sexual abuse and exploitation. But one young man from Johannesburg is trying to make a difference in protecting children, and he now joins us in studio. Curt Van Heerden, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
You know, it's when we go through, we read these stories and we go through them, and there are stories coming out, and with the advent of social media, we get to see a lot more of what's happening behind closed doors. Talk to us about how it all started for you and how you got involved. It's been 10 years in the making.
How it all started for me was one night when I was sitting and doing some work. My team that works with me, Austin, Ainsley and Earl, they showed me a video that was circulating around on social media about a 4-year-old that was smoking mandrax. And why that particular video struck a chord in my heart is because you have ex-addicts showing me this video. Now, I saw them broken, but I've never in the 10 years seen a child smoke from a mandrax pipe. I wanted to go home because it was late, and my son wanted daddy home. But I called my wife and I said, babe, let me just go and see where this is and how I can assist. The team got very excited. We jumped into the car. And when we got there, we saw what we never thought we would. It was a 4-year-old that was being groomed and being taught how to smoke drugs from that tender age. That's where it all started. Took out my phone, went live. There was over 7,000 people on that live video. And ever since that day, the unspoken of realities within our communities started coming to the surface. And it was just one case upon the other after that. That's where it all started. The night with a little boy by the name of Casper, 5 years old. I want to correct that. I think I said 4. 5 years old, being groomed how to smoke and become a user. That's when everything changed for us as it relates to the children's cases.
Now, looking at just the reported cases, because now when we look at the figures being 26,000, these are the reported, more than 26,000. What about the ones that are not reported?
Yeah, I think both of them are growing at an alarming rate. I think the ones that are not being reported are the people that has grown desensitized with the ongoing realities of this is just how it is. So the ones that are not being reported can be for various reasons. One, I'll explain it in the context of what I've experienced. You take a reported case to a system that's meant to protect the children, but the system in and of itself adds to the disappointment of that child. And that can be a contributing factor as to why cases are not reported. Because people are seeing how the system that must protect our children are the very system that's adding to the experience of disappointment and neglect that the children are experiencing on the ground.
I want you to expand on that.
Let me give you an example. When we get a call, subsection 110 in the Children's Act gives me as a religious leader mandatory response duty. But I don't respond because it's mandatory. I respond because it's passion and purpose. I respond because I understand a child saved today strengthens the voice of a nation tomorrow. So the processes that we have to go through in the removal of a child is we respond according to the Children's Act, Act 38 of 2005, subsection 150, when a child is in need of care and protection, when a child's mental health, physical health, and social well-being is important. So that's the reference and the foundation on which we respond to protect ourselves and to ensure that we stay in the legal framework of what's required of us. But we cannot remove a child. We are not mandated to by the Children's Act. It is either a police official or a social worker that must remove a child. When we get to SAPS, that's where the problem starts.
And what are you facing when you get to SAPS? What sort of reaction and response are you getting?
I want to try and choose my words wisely because I don't want to make it seem as if I am going to attack SAPS online.
Of course.
But I want to say it as bluntly and as open and as honest in reference to the experience I had. Your question is, what is it that I experience when I get there? First experience is SAPS don't know their role in the Children's Act. They don't know that they are mandated to respond according to the Children's Act. We have on numerous occasions heard that, no, we don't have a social worker, we can't get a hold of a social worker. To the point where I went to my car, opened up my boot and pulled out the book of the Children's Act, took them to the Act and said, it's not only a social worker. It is either you as a police official or a social worker that must respond. To the point where I even went further with the Children's Act, section 110(4)(a) tells us that it's a police official's responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of the child. From there, the police official, upon the removal, must then contact a social worker. The social worker must make sure that that child's case gets to the court within 2 days. Now, out of every 10 cases we take, 2 SAPs, 1 makes it to court.
Why?
Because the justice system is failing our children. I believe because we have wrong people in right positions and right people in wrong positions.
Now, what do you believe are the main drivers of child abuse and neglect in communities? And how much do poverty and unemployment play in terms of a role in influencing what we're seeing in a number of communities?
It plays an absolutely big role. Firstly, I think your question is, what do I think plays a contributing factor to the child abuse that's happening within our communities? I believe it's transgenerational trauma that has not been dealt with. I believe that broken parents cannot raise healed children. It's one thing for a parent to be broken. It's an added trauma when you're broken and broke. When you're broken and unemployed. When you're broken and you're dealing with various unexplainable events happening around you. People getting shot, stabbed, and brutally beaten. These are common occurrences to us. We're sitting in a house in El Dorado Park within our communities, and gunshots are going off. And people that's sitting around us are not responding to it because the sound of a gunshot has become normal. We don't flinch anymore. We don't try and run away from it. So those are all the contributing factors. And I believe what is happening, that most parents that we have now responded to as it relates to these children's cases, sad to say, but this is what I've experienced. They're having children, not because they want to, but because they're using that child as a means of an income for that child's SASSA.
Interesting facts. That I think that most generally people will speak about these issues, but the big challenge now is what solutions are there? Practical solutions.
The practical solutions is exactly what we're trying to do. But that practical solutions can only be seen through effectively when a system can support that practical solution. The practical solution is for me to go and take the child, but I can't do that. So the practical solution is, how do I work not as one who is against the law? How do I work as one who's in partnership with the law? But what do I do on the other end when my partnership with the law is constantly met with inaction, is constantly met with one van that's trying to service a whole community? Every child's case that we respond to, it never takes SAPS between 5 or 30 minutes to give us a van. It always takes more than an hour. One case we were responding to, a child was being sexually abused by her father on the time, at the moment when we were waiting for a van from SAPS.
Wait, are you saying while you guys were waiting at the house?
While we were waiting for SAPS to give us a van, a child was being sexually abused.
And what happened to that case?
SAPS could not get a van because SAPS is telling us we've got one van to service the whole community. Now we're dealing with the community that's going through what the community is going through, and the very people that must defend the community is under-resourced to do so. To make matters worse, 2 or 3 of those police officials are sitting on the other side of the desk scrolling through TikTok. Very nonchalant, slouching in their chairs, saying, just wait until the van comes. I mean, a child is being molested by her father, and that's your response? And you know what they do when we make our voices loud? They flip the script and make it seem as if we are the people who can't work with them. When we come, they're mandated by the Children's Act to approach you, to ask you to send a van with us. And when we got to that place, you know what happened? As descriptive as this is going to sound, the child had discharged on her private part. Now, what would have happened is SAPS could respond promptly and swiftly, but SAPS can't do that because they're under-resourced, and I believe they've lost passion to serve the community. You cannot hold a position when you don't have the information of what's happening on the ground in that community, because that will directly impact the compassion you must serve with and the urgency you must respond with. If you don't know what's happening in the community, you won't have credibility in your response.
And what are you getting before we go on? I just must apologize for the descriptive language that is being used live in studio. But this is a very emotive conversation that we're having with Curt Van Heerden, who sees this and experiences this with his team on a daily basis. And Curt, what sort of responses do you get from the leaders? Government, what are you getting from those people who are supposed to be assisting communities in ensuring that children are safe, that the community is safe as a whole?
I love that question, because I think what we are currently dealing with is the consequences of leaders and government not responding. So
Right.
There's no assistance, because their inaction has resulted in the mess we're dealing with now.
Curt, what do you need? What do you need in terms of action to be taken, in terms of, services, and ensuring that there is not just one van? Because when we speak of communities, the communities are quite huge. They're massive and with different extensions. So what do you need on the ground for leaders to come through and say, listen, this is what we're going to bring forward?
Firstly, I think I need our communities not to respond out of being desensitized. And secondly, I need a meeting with the Minister of Police.
Have you requested this before?
Numerous of times.
And
we've not gotten a response. Maybe we need to email him, but we've put out there, we've tagged him in stuff, and maybe our approach was wrong. But I don't know how it is that we can get a hold of him, because until we get to the top person that needs to make the decisions, we're always going to be fighting an ineffective fight. So what I need, more than the community not being desensitized, is to sit with the Minister of Police and to say to him, if we don't resource our community centers, we're fighting a losing battle on the ground. How do we win a fight on the ground when the people that must support that fight in their response are under-resourced to do so? So what I need is a meeting with the Minister of Police, for him to understand the reality on the ground, more than just make speeches about it.
And a message to the different communities that you work with, and if they're listening and when they see this, what message do you have to the people on the ground, the community more especially people who may need your assistance and just don't know how to reach out?
My message is, don't stay in your house when we are in your community, because until it knocks on your door, maybe then you'll understand why we're in your community. So we have to get to a point where we understand that the way that we're going to build our communities and build this nation is not to turn a blind eye to the children who must be the pioneers of it tomorrow. Because if we can't respond to a child that's in need, and then we must ask ourselves how we're going to heal our community. So it's one child at a time, one family at a time, which creates a healed environment for our communities to get hope again. And when our communities are saved at grassroots level, with all the proper infrastructure that I believe we're still far away from, that begins to pioneer a new path for South Africa as a whole.
Curt, you know what? I think we need more time. You need to come back and for us to continue this conversation. And hopefully by then you would have had your meet up with the police minister or somebody in leadership who can make changes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. That's Curt Van Heerden, a community activist and deputy president of the People's Movement for Change. And thus our questions on all our social media platforms. We will be back again tomorrow, but it is a chilling one. And continue listening to Channel Africa. #Africa Update. Bye-bye.